Caloundra collection, 2025. But first, a little bit of background on myself. Way back in 1965, I joined the Royal Australian Naval College as a 15-and-a-half-year-old cadet midshipman. A cadet midshipman was classified in the Navy as being the lowest form of marine life. So, with that as my starting point, off I went into my naval career. Well, our first captain, Captain Dacre Henry Jude Smythe, was an artist as well as a very fine naval officer. He was a midshipman at the Battle of the Coral Sea. Very inspirational for all the young cadets there at the college. And he decided that he would provide an opportunity for some enlightenment and teaching for some rough diamonds in the bush, and he created an art colony. So every Thursday night, a few of us would go down there. He had it all set up in a little old concert hut, probably World War II era, and we spent our Thursday nights down there listening to him and watching him and doing as he bid in our original exposure to art and learning art. And the bonus for that was after the art class was over and done with, he'd take us over to the captain's house where we'd have coffee and cake, and we'd meet his two beautiful daughters. So that was the real icing on the cake. Thereafter followed 38 years in the Navy, where the opportunity to paint or to sketch became few and far between because of the predilection for other things. But when I came to Caloundra, after having retired from the service, from the full-time service after 33 years, I decided that it was time to pursue that sort of latent or dormant calling, and I joined the Caloundra Arts Centre Association. I was a member of 3 groups, became the group leader of all 3, later Vice President and President of the Caloundra Arts Centre Association, and simultaneously I had joined the Friends with one Mari Piggott, encouraging me to do so a long time ago, and she and I were very, very good friends, and she introduced me to this wonderful place and the Friends, and that was about 25 years ago. So I became president of the Friends of the Gallery here in Caloundra as well whilst painting, and my, I guess you could say that my confidence in my work improved with the people around me, particularly at the Arts Centre Association, where there are lots of very good artists down there, and a number of art exhibitions, organisational activities around 2 major fairs, fundraisers for that place. And in a similar sense, with the Friends of the Gallery, having a look at the a slight moving reorganisation of the goalposts, I suppose, moving of the goalposts, reorganisation. I'm blessed by a really, really good committee and some excellent sort of background guidance from Mari and from others who have been with the Friends for a long time. And that's when I met Jo and her predecessor, and again, there was any amount of encouragement and great positiveness. The positivity around the whole experience in art was first class. So after that, I had run a couple of exhibitions and participated in a couple of exhibitions in the with the Kenilworth Arts Council, with the Condensory over at the Somerset Shire, their regional gallery, a beautiful place. Here in Caloundra, the Pelican Waters Resort gave my separate group, which is called the POP group, or the Passion and Passage group of artists, about 10 of us, the use of their ballroom. So we had a beautiful exhibition down there in a gold and black ballroom, 30 metres by 15 metres, with their wonderful generosity. I think we were there for 2 weeks. And since that time, a number of other smaller exposures in Matthew Flinders and so on. But now, with the first solo exhibition, having been invited last year to participate, I got the slot from November through to January, and that's where I am at the moment with 41 pieces. And it was a great, generous gift from the council and the council staff here, and Jo, who did the formal install and so on. That was Lyndon and Pia and Ella. They did a magnificent job. So that's where we're at. 1 month into it, basically, with another month to go. And I'm hopeful of a number of red dots that will come about just before Christmas, when frantic present buyers understand that there's something over there they could probably impress somebody with. But it's been a wonderful journey, I guess you could call it, or odyssey, more or less. Through the career in the Navy, I was exposed to art in the east seaboard of the Western Pacific nations, Japan, China, Malaysia, certainly the Philippines, Indonesia, where I spent 3.5 years as the Australian Naval Attaché with the embassy there. And I was influenced by the beauty, the simplistic beauty of the Oriental art has very much been an influence on what I've been trying to do in the last few years. But I painted oil, watercolour, fine felt pen with watercolour accents, watercolour pencil, mixed medium. I write poetry. I'm into my first novel, and I'm doing the final edit of that. It's growing, however, during the final edit. There's always another thought that comes to mind. So there's plenty of creative intensity in my script, which I have led to an empty canvas. And when I produce the book, not only will there be an opportunity for me to prove myself as a writer, but that will encapsulate most of my favourite artworks as well. They may be under a different title, so they'll be fitted into the narrative in the book, so that there is yet another gallery that I can produce. So it's a double hit on the production of that book. And I have two other chances, because that is Epistle 1 and 3. It's all to do with the wonderful quest that has escaped mankind since he's been on this earth, and that is peace in our time. But I have the answer. I've written it into my character, my principal character in the book, and he will prove that there is good in all of mankind after all. But you have to wait till Epistle 3. Epistle 1, which is the lead-in, is $39.99. Epistle 2 is $49.99, and the answer comes in Epistle 3, which is $59.99. Small price to pay. Well, I guess it all started really early in set piece teaching missions, I would call them, as a primary school, where there was a geography or a history class. My favourite subjects were all in the humanities. In junior in Queensland, for example, I passed with eight subjects. I passed with 7 A's and 1 C. And the C was in mathematics. The A's were in the other. Languages and geography, history. And in those days, you're invited by the teacher to produce a written work along with a picture. And I still have a book that my mother kept for me and gave to me before she passed away. And it was a workbook on primary school objectives, and therein were any number of small, colour pencils, artwork against a poem or against a little story or a take from history. So that's where that started. And it wasn't until Naval College really that we were presented as a fait accompli with a fully stocked, fully ready teaching environment and a studio with a competent, experienced, recognised artist in the captain. He's produced his own books, Lighthouse in Australia. He's now passed away as well. But that's where it all started there. And the inspiration of travel and experience with other people and cultures in the Navy for 30-odd years, 35 years, had been, I think, influential in being able to record what was in my mind, on canvas or on paper or whatever. And all that experience drove that creative expression.
I say travel broadens the mind, but yeah, definitely.
Well, it certainly does.
It's like creative.
Yeah, and it wasn't just travel for travel's sake. It was on a mission. Wherever we went with the Navy, we were there doing government work, and some of it was extremely interesting. Others was long passages at the sea, watching the albatross sweeping across the wake, being involved in church services at sea on Sunday, sports competitions on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, working with the Americans at sea. All of this was just a fabulous sort of encyclopedia of information that was hoovered up and kept for later. Well, I've named it the Andromeda Collection because the Andromeda is the name of a galaxy far, far away. It is probably the major galaxy that we know most about these days, and the expectation always to look at it incessantly is that there is another life form out there, similar to us, or another form of intelligence with which we'll be able to communicate later on. But the galaxy, the Andromeda, is a galaxy of stars. And being a little bit sort of forward in the way I think, I thought, well, I'll produce a galaxy of vice stars, for the general public and for those who are interested in collecting, to have a look at. And that's why it's called the Andromeda Collection. I like the term collection because it's part of a broader suite of artworks, and the selection that is up there in the Oriental Library Art Space is probably the better group of all of the work that I've ever done. Some of it goes back about 10 years, but that's okay too. I'm very much of the philosophy that to have an art exhibition, it doesn't all have to be done in the last 2 years, or the last 6 months. If it hasn't sold or it hasn't been collected, or you like it, you personally like it, why not put it up there, even though you might have done it 5 years ago. So that's where it all is, and it has a broad sweep of what I believe my art, my capability, in oil, watercolour, and derivatives thereof, acrylic. I haven't painted much in acrylic because I've been more fascinated with the effect of oil, texture, watercolour, the merging and layering of colours and so on, a vacant piece of paper. But when my wife was suffering from cancer, I didn't have the opportunity all the time to set up a gallery as I usually did in the garage, and that's where fine felt pen sketching really came into its own, because all you needed was a piece of paper and a brace of pens, a quiet spot, while you had time to do that. And a lot of people have remarked on how much they like it, that sort of specialisation you might want to call it. And I like it too, quite frankly. It can be very dramatic, or it can be very peaceful and serene, depending on how much pressure you put on that graphite, or and you get some pretty good effects just with a black and white. Watercolour is my favourite because I think you can play with watercolour. It's not a set piece exercise. Although the classical teachings of watercolour would have you believe that you get one shot at it, that's that. I don't believe that's the case. I believe you can layer and you can remove. I mean, you can take a garden hose to it if you don't like it and start again. But I have found that because it takes to a cotton medium, cotton canvas or paper, it works both ways for me, and I think I've achieved some pretty startling effects with it within the Andromeda collection. There's one major piece on canvas, and there are two other diptychs on quality paper, but they show that marvellous flexibility that you might have with watercolour. And I like just to play with it and turn it this way, that one, and drop some isopropyl alcohol from time to time, just to see what the effect is. But it's a very rewarding and very flexible, broad medium.
So it's a big show. There's a lot in it, and you talk about not having to be, all in the last 2 years. Does that mean there's more? How much more is there of Jonathan Jones that's not on the walls there?
Probably about half as much again, maybe a little bit more than that. And not with the Andromeda collection set piece exercise, but with the Passion on the Passage group, which I co-direct with another lady who's been an artist for 60 years, we set this up for artists who want to expose themselves, so to speak, in public. And we've been going for 7.5 years in the local area here in Caloundra. And that's the other place where the second half of the collection, or the entire suite, the inventory, is rotated every 3 months with the other artists. So we have a 3 month rotation in a very prominent place, again, a gift to the council, wonderful council, and I really celebrate the way this council looks after its artists in the arts community. We have that in the Bosang room over in the Minchton Street Centre. We did have a separate little small gallery down at Pelican Waters, but they're reorganising the lower floor, so we've lost that little space. But I'm always on the lookout for another high quality venue for my reading. And we might have one coming sooner or later.
Yes.
Usually we get about 30 pieces up between 8 of us and 9 of us, and that's enough over a 3 month period with an immediate replacement if one sells. I think over the 7.5 year period that we've been together, we sold about $18,500 worth of paintings. which is pretty good. And we've got some wonderful realism displayed on our walls. I think realism is we've heard is having a comeback at the moment. It's been very much to the edge for quite some time, but I think people, and you see that in what is turned up as people's choice in these exhibitions. Whatever is people's choice it's a template for the feeling in the community, I think. But they're happy and I'm happy. I don't have to tell them too many half-truths to keep them happy, but it's good when one sells. You get that lovely feeling of confidence, and they do too, to move on to the next step, Well, what they can expect is a full range of capability in the various mediums I've described. There'll be very large pieces, 4 feet by 3 feet, all the way down to very small and more manageable pieces. A predominance of fine felt pen, but a few Oriental inspired pieces, which I think are probably, to me, the more interesting of the lot, including a beautiful large watercolour. It's a Japanese waterfall falling into a lake with a volcano in the background, in the mode of Hokusai and some of the more traditional classic painters. There are some lovely works of art that I believe captured the essence of the Sunshine Coast, the moonrise at night over Bribey, for example, and the kite surfers over the old Caloundra bar before it closed up. After a 35-knot breeze stumps itself up in the afternoon, up they go like a cloud of mosquitoes. So I captured that, and I think I have them, well ensconced in my larger watercolour deck. There are a couple of collages, but essentially that's about it. And it's quite a good romp through diptychs, individual pieces, larger pieces, and very large pieces. So the commanding piece, which is a landscape of the hinterland behind us, what I did was to combine not one lake and its mountains surrounding them, not enough, so I combined 3 lakes and put all the mountains all in one piece. That's probably the biggest oil I've ever done, which is 1.65 metres by about 1. That's the piece that leads people into the show. Good for a boardroom somewhere, which is meaning a commanding piece. Well, I've always said that after art there'll be photography. The both of them have interplayed all the way along. So I think both will continue. A lot of it depends on the convenience and the logistics involved, quite frankly. It's okay to set up a gallery in the garage, but it's not the quintessential place. And if you have your own studio, and many of my friends do, I think there's a much better product that comes from total sort of equanimity within an art sphere, rather than moving the cars out and setting up pieces and so on. But I'll continue to sketch and paint. I have the capability. I don't have to do it all at once. There is no finite calendar which tells me on the 30th of December 2084 I've got to stop. So I'll just keep going. And I'll keep writing. If I get those 3 novels, if I get that trilogy finished with my artwork embodied in it, I'll be very happy. And I'll continue to do other things that emerge from time to time. But family is very important to me. We have family spread around the world. The closest is in Canberra and the others up in Port Douglas. And they both deserve a lot of attention, which they get. And then in the time available for both of us, and I'm 76 now, moving along, I've only got 24 years left. So I better get on with it. You develop your own style and make sure it comes from you and not from somebody who thrashes you into believing that that's the way you should be. You identify somebody who is a mentor, perhaps a hero, one of the older recognised artists of the world, and the style that they have. But you have your own style, and you see that. You can see that here on the Sunshine Coast more frequently, I think, and more splendidly than in other places. If you just pick up the magazines like Salt Magazine and the others, the Hello World, those that are available to you, you'll see this broad range of incredibly enthusiastic, passionate artists. This area, the whole Sunshine Coast, is alive with subject material. Right from the very, very early inhabitants of the Sunshine Coast, who are in themselves the most wonderful, creative and prolific artists from which we can draw inspiration. But therein, for the young person beginning to learn, it's not all about one particular style either. It should be an honest representation of what you feel as an artist. And I don't think it would be, it would be remiss of me to say, don't let others tell you where you should go with your art. You develop it, and look how some of the more famous names in the world developed their style, and they'll live on forever. I really do want to thank the Council, the Sunshine Coast Council, for this marvellous opportunity for somebody who would seize it and deliver the best possible, to honour the invitation. Very generous. The other thing is, we in Caloundra are very blessed with the fact that we have a regional gallery here, which is about to get bigger in the future, that will embody what has already gone on here and then extend it some for many years to come. So there's a lot of rationale and a lot of confidence and emotion in getting behind this community and seeing it through. They're wonderful people, it's a great council, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity.